So once again, we have a rogue judge who is halting efforts by the Trump administration to remove hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens who were granted temporary protected status under the Biden administration. These temporary stays never stay temporary. Historically, they never get resolved. Case in point, if you go back in 2001, after earthquakes ravaged El Salvador, the U.S. decided, in our infinite wisdom, to bring 190,000 of these El Salvadorians over to the U.S. temporarily, while the damage from the quakes was then repaired. And our doofus leaders at the time, both in Congress and the presidency, defended the reason for doing so as humanitarian. Think of the children. So they let them stay, and they let them work legally until conditions back home were to stabilize. Except it never did, and fast forward to today, 24 years later, most of these El Salvadorians are still here. The TPS situation for these people has been extended repeatedly by both Republican and Democrat administrations over the 2 decades, with the latest extension under Biden pushing the deadline to March of 2025. Now, not only do these near 200,000 El Salvadorians still live in the U.S., but they have families and they have children now who have grown up and have been given access to voting rights, thanks to the whole idea of being born into the USA and given citizenship. And they mostly reside in places like California, Texas, and Washington, D.C. This is the end game that they are playing. The American people don't want to give them more amnesty. We already had enough of that after the first 3 million were granted amnesty back in 1986. So, since they couldn't get the will to get amnesty a second time, our government has found a way to get around this and allow them to stay by fiat, biding their time for when eventually they'll be able to push it through. Which brings me back to our latest corrupt political activist person wearing a black robe and calling herself a judge. This is from the Post-Millennial. This is an article titled "Federal Judge Blocks Trump Administration's Revocation of Temporary Protected Status for 530,000 Immigrants." A Boston federal judge has said that the Trump administration is not permitted to suspend the temporary protected status for some 530,000 Cubans, Haitians, Venezuelans, and Nicaraguans who are in the United States under this program. Judge Indira Talwani said that each case must be individually assessed and that a blanket revocation is just not possible. Good to know. The judge granted the emergency relief, saying that the order of the termination of parole processes for Cubans, the Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans was stayed insofar as it revoked, without case-by-case review, the previously granted parole and work authorization issued to non-citizens paroled into the United States pursuant to parole programs for non-citizens from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela prior to the non-citizens' originally stated parole date. Now, this is a crock of crap coming from the judge. This judge is blocking the Trump administration's blanket revocation of temporary legal status, these 530,000 legal aliens, demanding a case-by-case review instead of mass termination. She knows damn well that that would take years to get done. She's effectively freezing deportations in place, keeping these illegal aliens here indefinitely. It is a giant middle finger to the will of the American people who voted to get rid of these people, who voted to get rid of these illegal aliens infesting this country. And what makes this even more ironic is that these people who got this TPS status that she's now blocking from having blanket removal orders got blanket approval orders. You see, the previous administration granted mass temporary protected status on hundreds of thousands of people based on categorical eligibility, meaning, oh, you're from Venezuela, the economy is collapsing over there, you're in, you're good, you get your TPS. You're from Haiti, where there's a lot of gang chaos, mass approved. So as long as it's a Democrat allowing illegal aliens to stay, it is fine. But when another administration comes in to undo the damage, well, that's a bridge too far. This is how you know the judicial branch is corrupt. These nobodies in black robes are so corrupt that they should not remain at their station, but there is no real way to get rid of them. And so they play their judicial sabotage. The Democrat Party has imploded, and so these judges, these political activists installed into the courts to carry out the will of the left, are now acting in unison to stop Trump on their own, to act against the will of the American people. Now, of course, all of this will continue to work its way up the courts to the Supreme Court. This isn't unexpected, at least not to me. Corruption within the judicial system has been eating away at its core for decades. But now it's no longer in the shadows. It is right in front of all of our faces. Now, the Post-Millennial goes on to write, In a ruling for the temporary block, the Obama-appointed judge said that those who are currently in the U.S. on this program would be forced to choose between two injurious options. Oh, so sad. Continue following the law and leave the country on their own or await removal proceedings. Yeah, it's called get the hell out. Your temporary stay is over. Now, the ruling mentions plaintiffs who are currently working in the U.S. in order to send money back to their home countries. Cue the violin. Here reads the case of Anna Doe. She has been working for a company that supplies personal protective equipment. So sad. She uses her salary here to provide for her family and for her mother who live in Nicaragua. Will go home and work there and provide for your family. Some of those listed in the ruling have stated that they fear their home government and that they would face persecution should they return. That's still not our problem. And still others speak of financial hardships, the need to pay back those who sponsored their trips to the U.S. Okay. And the difficulty of finding work in their home nations. Those who are from Haiti fear returning home due to the instability and lawlessness in the gang-run country. Again, that's not our problem. It's not our job to take in everyone from around the world who come from crappy countries, who have a lot of issues. I'm sorry, it's just not. Anyway, the post-millennial goes on to write, the program had been implemented by the Biden administration, and under his watch, over 500,000 people from these four nations alone came to the U.S. seeking shelter, food, and work. The status was extended to people from other nations as well, including Afghanistan. Over 1 million people were added to this program in total during Biden's 4 years in office. The program allowed people to stay for up to 2 years, but over the years, that status has repeatedly been extended, surprise, surprise. And in September, then Vice President Kamala Harris announced that the status of some 100,000 Haitians in the U.S. had once again been extended amid turmoil in that country. Now, I would ask the judge, well, they're just mass extending everybody. Shouldn't that be by a case-by-case basis as well then? I mean, what the hell are we talking about? Here's our favorite Kamala talking about it.
That is why, also, starting with our administration, we gave TPS, temporary protected status, to Haitian migrants, 55,000. And then more recently, we extended temporary protected status to over 100,000 Haitian migrants for that very reason, that they need support, they need protection.
Now, the House Judicial Committee has said that the Biden administration abused the program, which they did, by greatly expanding the scope of populations eligible for temporary protected status, including through new designations, redesignations, and extensions of prior TPS designations, and again, doing this in a mass way. The Biden-Harris administration attempted to indefinitely protect from deportation, in other words, getting amnesty, hundreds of thousands of aliens from certain countries. The program, the report went on to say, was a de facto amnesty. Yes, it was. That was vastly expanded by the Biden administration. Now, this will continue to work its way up the courts to the Supreme Court, obviously. This isn't unexpected. We knew that these corrupt judges were going to act this way. Corruption within the judicial system has been eating away at its core for decades now. But what's different about this now is that there's so many judges ruling against the American people. And they're doing it in such a way, and thanks to the fact that the Democrat Party is in pieces, the courts that are acting this way are no longer in the shadows. It's all right in front of our faces. And so thankfully, because it's not in the shadows, and thankfully because it's in everyone's faces, the outrages that these judges are inflicting on the American people have reached such an epic proportion that it has actually stimulated the Republican Party and the will of the American people for something to happen, to do something about this corruption. And so something has happened. There's a bill that's gone out, led by Representative Darrell Issa of California. The bill is called the No Rogue Rulings Act, or H.R. 1526. It is designed to stop these corrupt judges, like our good Judge Tyranny, from issuing nationwide injunctions that block executive actions across the entire country. And this bill has actually been passed in the House now and is headed up to the Senate. So it's no longer just talk. Now, what this bill does is it forces judges to only issue orders affecting the specific parties that they are seeing. No blanket policies. For example, this Judge Tyranny, who put a stay on the TPS revocation nationally, would not be able to halt the entire program. She would only be able to apply to the plaintiffs who are suing and seeing her directly in court. Now, there still would be exceptions, though, for multi-state lawsuits to go to a random 3-judge panel, which could then issue broader injunctions, but they must weigh separation of powers and irreparable harm. Now, the goal here is to prevent these single judges from derailing national policies, like what we've been experiencing with the Trump administration and the constant judges stopping him at every turn. And in the case of illegal immigration, you have had 17 stays on Trump's attempts to deport people already. And that's just in a couple of months. The Biden administration in their entire reign only saw 28 national stays, the entire 4-year term. So the good news is the bill has passed, 219 to 213 in the House. It was only one Republican defector, Mike Turner from Ohio, who joined the Democrats in trying to stop the bill. And now it's in the Senate, where there is a similar push by Senator Chuck Grassley, the Republican senator from Iowa, with his bill, the Judicial Relief Clarification Act, which is targeting the same issue, amending laws to limit courts to case-specific rulings unless it is a class action suit. So this is a big deal. If the Senate can push it forward, then it would head over to Trump's desk and Trump would certainly sign it. And if that happens, we might actually see some reform, ending the tyrannical abuse by the judicial branch of their power. Or at the very least, it'll rein it in to some degree.